Let's launch a probe into it.
Welcome to Class L Probe. Yar, ye blue shirts.
Yes.
It's nice to see such a handsome group of blue shirts here, I will say. It warms my heart and, it builds confidence amongst the crew. Tonight's probers, take that as you will. Myself, Davan Skelhorn. And with me as always, Dave Puxley. We are plain simple tailors.
It's me.
That's what we do. We tailor, plainly.
Simply.
And simply, yeah. And with us as always, not always, well, Adam always on this show, but
indeed.
With us tonight, Adam Woodward and Ashley Millard. The Quiz Admiral is with us tonight. We're launching 4 probes tonight.
It's always good to have an even
rigorous
number.
We're taking a new step tonight. This is a bold move.
Yes, Sam.
Hey,
Indeed. Where no one's gone before.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting ladies on the bridge now.
This is fantastic. Welcome, Ashley.
We should destroy the probe.
Worf's not having it. Should destroy the probe. 4? We do 3.
Famously,
3 is what we do. Worf's kind of rigid. I love him, but he's...
The number of the counting shall be 3. Thou shalt not go to 4, and 5 is right.
So what we do here is we take topics from our Debate 9 show, where we debate all of the finer points and controversies of Star Trek, you could say. And here we try to not argue so much and just discuss some of the topics that we think we could get into more depth with than our little 30-second debates over on that other show. So here we are. Does anyone think their their topic, see, I'm getting confused myself, would make a good opener?
Why don't you just roll the dice and see what comes up?
Indeed.
Okay, you guys call your numbers in the air.
Around?
I got dice. Oh, hold on. There's buzzing going on.
Oh.
Laundry's done.
Alarm. Red alarm.
All right, call your numbers in the air.
3.
3.
Ah!
Did you guys all say 3?
Yes. Is it 3?
No.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Oh, we don't get our pick.
You guys all got it wrong, so I'll go first. All right. So.
Great minds think alike. Eh?
The one I chose. It is interesting. Cardassia is a better fit for the Federation than Bajor. The Cardassian Empire more so than them. But I don't know if you call it the Bajor. What do they call it? The Bajorans? They don't have an empire. They don't have anything. They just have one planet. It's just Bajor.
True.
Yeah. So, but the reason I chose this one, now, Dave, you had to debate this one against Cousin Dave in a past Debate 9. Yes.
Did I win or did I lose?
You did win.
Oh,
though
right.
I felt like there were
me.
some points that you could have been taken to task with a little more. So, whoop, there's more buzzing. See, it's just...
Proximity.
All right, we're back. Yeah, proximity alerts.
So what are those?
Oh my! Oh no!
I have no memory of this.
We didn't launch the probe.
Oh no!
All right.
Oh, that's bad.
So, well, no, it just not even that. It was just the debate could have gone on longer, maybe even. So here's the thing. Here's what I'm thinking about this one. So, there's 2 Bajors and there's 2 Cardassias. There's I don't know, it's almost like the ruling class of both in a way. There's the Vedics and even the militia, the higher ups in the militia on Bajor and what they want, and then there's kind of what the rest of Bajor would probably want. And I think it's the same as the case in Cardassia, where there's what the military wants in the Obsidian Order, and whatever provisional government is probably having its strings pulled by the military and the Obsidian Order anyway, so it's like, whatever.
Well, and as we see over the course of the war, the Tatapa Council falls apart, right? So that class struggle fundamentally becomes, you're right, like a military-industrial struggle.
So, my thing is, on this point, is that I feel like the planet as a whole, therefore its leaders and everything, you probably have to go with Bajor. But I find their people are a little maybe less aligned with the Federation way of doing things. They are a little more insular and a little more, a little more religious and just, and also not quite ready because of the occupation and all that kind of stuff. But the Cardassia, if you get rid of the Obsidian Order in the military ruling class, like they're basically just a Federation species in a way. Like they've been driven slightly mad by like lack of resources before. Like if you read like the A Stitch in Time book and stuff like that, but otherwise they're just like a cosmopolitan Federation kind of world that loves art and culture and literature and experience other planets' arts and culture and stuff. So it's like they would fit perfectly if it weren't for this like super corrupt ruling class, I feel like. Whereas Bajor are more being brought into the Federation because of their ruling class. It's like them saying, yeah, we're going to let the Federation run this station and stuff, whereas the people on the planet are always just like, no, we're not ready. We don't want the Federation here, at least for the first few seasons of DS9. So, like, that's kind of where I'm coming from there. What do you guys think?
You have a keen mind, David.
A really interesting analysis, yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Oh, man.
I don't think Bajor is ready to become part of the Federation when the Federation is trying to get them in.
Oh,
I'd agree. Yeah, entirely.
Completely agree. They are far too religious. There's too many. I think they're further back in the evolutionary, whatever scale the Federation has for admittance, I guess. Than
it's Cardassia. It's like what Ducat says. I don't know how much you can believe Ducat, but he says they were like 200 years ahead of Bajor in most ways when they arrived.
And I think I'm not even sure it's so much about the fact that they're religious, because there's tons of religious cultures in the Federation, right? But their state of utter destruction, politically and sort of institutionally.
Kevin's smoking weed right over there, and I just.
Well, hopefully it's nice and bright. Come on. That's the good kind.
Blow some through the microphone like a gentleman, Kevin.
The total sort of destruction of their material culture has, Kira articulates it in the pilot of DS9 so beautifully. Right? Like the provisional government is going to fall apart any 10 minutes you look at it. And yet we're so willing, as soon as we've gotten rid of the Cardassians, to throw our lot in with some other group of managers. Mm-hmm. And I think more than anything else, that's why in some ways I'm really compelled by Davan's argument. The morale of the people is broken. And I think it's a powerful argument inside DS9 that the recovery of their spirituality in some sense, even though it's not, as we see in a couple episodes, identical to what was before, and that's probably a really good thing, is part of their sort of recovery of self, right? Their recovery of like what it is to be Bajoran, but post-occupation. But I think they need time to finish some of that recovery before they would want to, like in that insular, like you mentioned insularity, Davan, and I agree with that. Like there's maybe a necessary time for that sort of national development or development of a people before they want to reach out confidently to the rest of the galaxy and say, sure, I mean, diplomatic relations fine, but Federation membership is a whole different kettle of fish. Well, and then the Cardassians are like, they've just had their Earth in the 21st century collapse, and maybe they're ripe. I'll go on for too long if I take much more time.
I think there's like two things there, though. First of all, like when Federation is looking for membership, sure. I mean, we're in hardship, we're like refugees, we need to take people in, get it. But looking at Bajor as just a planet, I think you said it, Ashley said it, and now Davan said it. Have they defined themselves? Like, and I think that's what you're saying, Dave.
Who are they now?
They don't know.
It's like watching your friend finally get out of an abusive relationship, not find out who they are, and get into another relationship where they immediately take on the personality of the next person, and they haven't discovered who they are and what they are about without that first abusive relationship. And that's what this is. The Federation is coming in too soon. They're too hot on the heels of all of this happening, coming in and helping, but potentially bringing them into the Federation is.
But would the Federation even be there if it wasn't for the stable wormhole?
And there's the thing, right? Oh man, like fundamentally, it comes down to realpolitik, and DS9 illustrates that beautifully. In some ways, the whole show is an allegory of the transformation of the British Imperial Order pre-World War II into the post-war American world order, where these colonial powers, the immediate colonial powers, get thrown off, but then some neo-colonial financial, administrative, sort of military power comes along that has its own interests and is going to see to the development of this place along its own lines, right? It looks like more benign, but in the end, they're going to get pounded by bombs just as much as anybody else is. It's fascinating. I never thought of it that way before, but you just blew the top of my head off. That's awesome.
It's great. See, this is why we do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Just blow our tops off.
It's the Mardi Gras of Star Trek discussions.
I hope Heather's watching so she gets this. This is much more.
It's just like what were these two places like before the Cardassian military ruined them? Before the Cardassian military ruined Cardassia was perfect for the Federation. A little poor, but they could help with that.
Like some people were starving, and that's kind of why these fascists.
It's a desert. There's no resources.
These fascists were able to come in and sort of take over because people were like, "Yeah, I'm starving. Yes, please take away some of my freedom and feed me."
But on the contrary, before the Cardassian military came in and ruined Bajor, Bajor was still using a Dajara system,
right?
Which is very not ready for the Federation.
Right.
I mean, it certainly presents a unified government, but it's a problematically unified government. You're exactly right.
In
terms of Federation,
it's a little too
values,
restricted.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They'd be like, "Whoa, maybe you should get rid of that whole thing." Like, if one of your labor class wants to be a scientist, we're going to let them. They'll be like, "Whoa, follow your."
Yeah, like what happens
people.
once they join Starfleet and they're not under the Bajara's immediate rule, right? In that sense, there's an interesting development.
It at least creates a hurdle.
Yeah, right. Like that would have been a significant challenge, for sure.
This is why we do this. That's the quote of the night right there from Adam. Captain Dave says our paw is strong with the spirit of the science division. Thanks, Captain.
Thank you, Captain.
What's this one now? Feed Me Seymour says you're making Cardassia as Germany after World War I, struggling and starving, and of course
there's a certain allegory to that crops out along this reading. I don't know that's necessarily the only possible meaning that Cardassia can have in Deep Space Nine, but certainly along this kind of a reading, that would be a role it falls into for sure. Yeah, and I think Ashley's points are excellent in that regard, right? There's a period of problem and resource starvation, part of which goes along with the reality of the Federation border wars, right, with the Cardassians, which are just this long, drawn-out series of conflicts that do see them getting more and more desperate for resources, and fundamentally they become more aggressive over time, right? Yeah.
So I propose, since you sort of have to deconstruct that Cardassian military power structure anyway, because it's problematic.
You do.
Well, in many ways, it's deconstructed itself by the end of the Dominion War.
Yeah,
It's true.
I would say I don't think that either of them are ready for the Federation when we see them in that Deep Space. If we're talking Deep Space Nine era, neither of them are ready. But I think Cardassia would be ready faster and would be a better fit,
Culturally.
quicker than Bajor.
I agree.
I think they're further ahead.
But you're right, because we saw glimpses of the philosophy, or the philosophers, I guess. We saw, the explorers, the wanting to learn and expand themselves and take care of their families, and all of that we started to see at the end of Deep Space Nine. While they're still fighting in Bajor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. I like where we landed on that one. Who's up next?
Let's go with that.
All right. We're rolling a dice again.
All right.
Call it in the air.
5.
Oh,
2.
4.
How many numbers are on this die?
6.
Who said 5?
12.
I said 5.
Who said? Okay, you're up next, Adam. All right.
That was going to be a natural 20 if we did one more roll.
Read it to us.
It was right to release Denise Crosby after season 1
of TNG, of course.
Of
for more
course.
context. Why did you pick this one, Adam?
Yeah, because you know what, we are actually reviewing. We started with Next Generation. What, about 9 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago now, I guess. And for many of us, including myself, it's like going back in time, and everybody's avoided season 1 for some reason, but
There's reasons.
There's reasons. And actually, Denise Crosby is one of them.
Yeah, well, I had a joke going, and just like I might have even been in my own head the other day. I was watching it, and it's like everything Picard says to Tasha Yar is to just get her off camera. So I'm just like, it's just like the action's down on the planet. Okay, Lieutenant, you stay here and look after security on the ship. And it's just like, yes, Captain. She's always depressed when she says it because she wants lines and she can't.
So if you take a look at this from the standpoint of the actress Denise Crosby, I was doing a little bit of reading today on this, is that she hated coming to work, about midway through the season, because she was not enjoying it, didn't see any development in her character, and as a viewer,
there wasn't any.
Yeah, there wasn't any, and as a viewer watching Tasha Yar, it's very clear that it's like, I think they had two characters, Worf and Tasha. And what do we do with these guys? And let's see what happens on. Let's roll the dice and see what happens in season 1 and who they want to take further. Now, but she actually asked to be written off the show.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because they were going to keep her and write off Deanna.
Yeah, I had heard
And
that
then
as
she
well.
asked to be let go, and that saved Marina's role.
That's interesting.
Well, if that's all if that changes this whole thing for me and makes it easy, because I would rather Deanna stick around. So if it took Denise leaving for Deanna to stick around, then.
But it's like they had one too many people, in the opening bridge crew that they needed to deal with, because
sorry, not to interrupt you, Adam, but it was TNG season 1, and TNG in general. They had one too many ladies they could write for, because they don't know how to write ladies on that show.
Yes,
and so they're like, what are we going to do with 3 ladies? We can't
And that was their reasoning for wanting to write off. They were going to write off Deanna, was because they had too many ladies, And I guess that at this point they were already planning on getting rid of Crusher anyway.
Isn't that something? They had 3 ladies in season
yeah.
1, and 2 of them were gone by season
Get
2.
rid of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I agree with this is because they would not have done her character justice. I think that Tasha Yar could have been an absolutely amazing character, especially given her backstory and the story of like the planet that she came from and stuff. What an incredible backstory that they never would have dived into.
It's like they
did not know how to write those women on that show, and I think it turned out better for her that she left and then later came back as Sela, who actually got like good stuff.
She did, but also Yesterday's Enterprise, which was season 3, I think, right?
Mhm.
Like that was like, to me, one of the
That's one of the best episodes of the whole
episodes.
series.
Yes.
Exactly. And she was fantastic in that one. Like she did
was
more in season
fantastic
3
in that one.
in that episode than she did in season 1 at all. Like it seemed to me. And you're right, Ashley. I think that at that time, Star Trek's maturity wasn't there to do anything more than Uhura type roles, or
Right.
you know.
But let's also address the other elephant in this room in that case, which is between season 1 and season 3, there's a huge shift, right? Which is the death of Gene Roddenberry. And the change in the helming of the series, which I think it's a fundamental shift in TNG, you know, and some of the writing that you get in Yesterday's Enterprise is both a point of maturity, absolutely, but I think it's also, you know, a question that, you know, for all of his many gifts, Roddenberry could not see women in many dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fair to say.
And when you get to Yesterday's Enterprise, I mean, you had the reintroduction of Tasha, great, as a strong role, and they could have
died in season 5, but he wasn't working on the show.
Yeah, he left the show. They're saying
you're right. Thank you for the correction.
They pushed him out. They pushed him out of the show.
He was being pushed out in season 1, like
Oh yeah.
And the other part of this is that they
also, and that's got to be hard in its own right.
Yeah.
And
sorry, Adam.
Yeah, no problem. You also had the introduction of Guinan in season 3, which is another strong female role, right? So,
yeah, they started to do it a bit better later, but I mean, I contend this might come up in one of our next topics, but they gave most of the female characters, certainly Beverly, more to do in season 3 Picard than they got in all of TNG.
Yeah.
And that's
Make
sad.
him take a breath.
I mean, it worked out better for us in the long run that Tasha Yar left, and they finally figured out what they were going to do with Worf, and actually gave him the role of the security chief that Picard was already pretending he was, because he would turn to him way more than he turned to Tasha Yar, who was his actual security chief, and Worf was doing more of that stuff anyway. But if I feel like if Worf had become that security chief in season 2, then we wouldn't have gotten the Worf that we have in Deep Space Nine, and certainly not Picard season 3.
So many like effects.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish they would have done is brought her back in some fashion in Picard at the end there. Like whether
that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
How would you have envisioned that? Like what would have that looked?
I was thinking some kind of Sela role. Like it would have had to be in Sela. Like there's no other way to do it, but
because why they didn't do it.
Yeah, but I mean, I wish they it would have been good. Like
they got Ro instead.
Yeah, but that was fine too. I liked her as a character too. I really did.
Tasha Yar wasn't really a big part of Picard's life, though. So it wouldn't have been if they had done a Data show, maybe. But I mean, like I said, she was his security chief, and he still counted on Worf. So I don't think the Tasha Yar thing really affected him.
Don't they show the Tasha hologram of Data's in season 1 of Picard though? I think they
It's
do.
in his he may have
Yeah.
inherited it from Data, yeah.
He went to his to the archives and
Yeah,
it was in
it's
there.
with his effects.
So that was
Yeah.
her shout out, I guess.
Yeah.
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 Honestly, like visually, that's one of the coolest things in season 1 too. It's that little hologram on.
Yeah.
Data's-
There's an idea.
Some of that world.
Dasha
is so-
returns as an emissary entity like Cisco.
Oh.
You know,
I am the Yar.
Well, the comments are
Yar.
killing it tonight, I have to say.
It's true. You guys are kicking ass in the comments tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've all landed in the same place on this one. Like, there's so many run-on effects from it that were positive. We get to keep
I would've-
Deanna.
I
Worf
would
gets a
have loved-
better role.
I would have loved to have kept her in the show if the writers in the 90s and late 80s
they
could
were-
have written the female characters
Huh?
like real characters.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and I
Like
think
they
you know
did,
one
like
of the
they did the men. If they could round them out like they did the male characters, I think it would have been a fantastic character. I think the Tasha Yar character with the backstory in a Star Trek now could be epic.
you're
oh
right.
man, yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that
Yeah,
episode was
yeah.
really cool. That whole idea of her sister and
Of
everything.
her- yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
like
was
the
her
idea of
sister was
that.
epic character. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah, it made me want Denise Crosby. And one of the things
I
that we
think
haven't
I think
probably done
Tasha
too
Yar
much
was
is
too early for her time.
well, Denise Crosby is also like I've seen her in some other things over the years, and she is a great actor. And I think
But
Sela
she didn't
proved
get
that.
any-
Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery. She didn't get anything
Yeah.
good though. She didn't really other than
Yeah,
Mhm.
you know.
she was a very stoic kind of character in some ways. You know.
Yeah.
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 She had a TV show there for a while about cops, I think.
Yes. What was that?
Really.
Was it Blue Bloods or something like that?
Blue Bloods is with Tom Selleck.
Oh, okay. Something like that. Anyway, she did have one there for a while.
You know, similar
like,
mustache.
To be fair also to like the people who are her detractors, she was very flat in season 1. She didn't want, you could tell she didn't want to be there. It was
Well, I'm
pretty
not
flat.
enjoying being on
whenever she
set,
did
yeah.
get a line. But like yesterday's Enterprise showed us what we could have gotten. Like if
Yeah.
she finally got to, I guess she was great. In
Yeah.
that. Oh yeah, because she was in Red Shoe Diaries, and she was on Walking Dead for a little while as like a cannibal.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Yeah. That was a crazy
Wow.
role, actually. She was scary, man.
Wow.
She like leads a group of cannibals.
Must have been like the 17th series of the 4th spin-off,
Yeah, I think it was the last season I watched.
The
of
Walking Dead.
that. But are we happy with where we landed on that one?
Yeah, I'm just now I want to figure out what that cop show because I remember that and I can't remember.
All
what
right.
it's-
Well, let's fire off another probe, shall we?
We should destroy the probe.
Nope, we're firing another one.
All right. Dealer's choice
All right.
this time. What do you want to throw up here?
All right. Well, because we were kind of alluding to it a bit. Beverly was right to not... Why don't you read this one off, Ashley?
All right. So from the debate 9, it was Beverly was right not to tell Picard about their son Jack. I just so strongly disagree with this. I think Beverly was completely in the wrong. And I also think that the entire storyline of this in Picard season 3 was an absolute bastardization of her character. I think it was just the worst choice they could have ever made. I hate the secret child trope in everything, but especially Star Trek. It's getting overplayed. But it completely changed everything about her character and who she was in TNG. Like, she was this moral character that wasn't afraid of this stuff. Her husband died while in the line of duty, and she continued to be on a starship with her teenage son. She allowed him to be a junior officer on the bridge as a teenager. She allowed him to try out for Starfleet when he was a teenager. She allowed him to go to Starfleet. And
Allowed him to go off with a space creeper.
Right, but besides that, he was an adult by the time he did that. Like, he was over 18 by the time he did that, so he was an adult.
You
But
can choose the Space Creeper.
But she can't claim this PTSD stuff from him going off with the Traveler or anything, because he's safer with the Traveler than he would have been in Starfleet, and she was letting him go into Starfleet. Like, she lost her husband in the line of duty with Starfleet, and she was like, yeah, go ahead. But then as soon as she's having another son with someone who's in Starfleet, she's like, nope, I got a secret baby. I have to cut off everyone in my life, and no one can know. And then Picard, she claims that it's because he was constantly out in space and doing all this stuff, and he's always in danger, and she doesn't want his son to lose another father. But in Picard season 1, it's established that 15 years previous to that, he loudly left Starfleet and retired to grow grapes at his estate. So that Jack is only like 6 or 7 years old at this point.
Yeah,
he could have been in his life.
So
I think it's wrong.
He had a
for
dog.
Jack
well,
to get
her thing
dog.
on that was she said she left it up to Jack at that point.
No, she left it up to him when he was older.
Yeah.
My only counter to that is, and not because of Beverly, it's because what son could be Picard's son? like, could you imagine him as a father?
I think he could have been a great father. Look at how he was with Wesley. As much as he said he didn't like kids, he was
Get
actually
that boy off my bridge.
He was actually pretty good with the kids on the
He
ship.
sang Frere Jacques all the way up the turbo lift shaft.
He did.
Look at the way he dressed down Wesley when he was part of Red Squad. He would have been an excellent father.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I take it from the point of like living up to the Picard name.
Oh well.
And
yeah, but is it fair to deny a father and son the
no,
ability
it's not
to
fair.
have a relationship because the father is famous or successful?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Go ahead. Well, all right. If I was to play devil's advocate for a second, I'm not saying I agree with this, but if you look at it from Beverly's perspective, if you look at her as a character who maybe, which is hard to believe since she was sort of like best buds with Deanna for all that time, but maybe with a little bit of untreated issues around loss based around her son and her father. Like, she's this character that like refuses to lose anything ever, like almost like Spider-Man, where Spider-Man is just like no one else dies at one point in the comics because he's just like sick of people dying. Like, she's like that. She's just like can't and at the point where she made this decision, Picard was still in the Starfleet, and people were like, she even says it, she's just like, I got pregnant, and the next day there was like, you were kidnapped, and like they had guns to your head for like 48 hours or some shit like that. She's just like, the next day he's like, he's like, yeah, she's like, no, and then the week after that, like so it's like it was nonstop mayhem for Picard at the time. But to not come back at some point before being forced to, essentially, is, I don't know, I think it's something. But like to try to save a baby from that, I can understand that. Like, you have this like 6-month-old baby in your arms, and the father's getting kidnapped and threatened by aliens constantly.
I'm going to switch cameras just a second here.
Yeah, right.
So Ashley, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I was kind of making sort of a fun joke around like but
yeah.
Like what I think that when you look at the Starfleet, it's part of what they do. Like, yes, death is imminent. That's the way things are. Mm-hmm. So you should, I mean, whether you have a father who's in it or not, it's. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily her right to not tell him.
Well, here, let me be a different kind of devil's friend. Because, who doesn't want to be that? The other side of this is it's well established in Trek lore from comics and references in various spots that marriage under Federation law, as well as child rearing under Federation law, work differently than we currently envision them. Marriages can be undertaken for a 5-year term or longer. They're term things, which in a highly mobile society seems pretty rational. So the question, I mean, to me, there's a couple of interesting questions here. One about sort of personal autonomy in a galaxy quadrant spanning society and how that communication is going to work. But the other, because I mean, I think, Davan, your points are really excellent, right? And they support, in some ways, rather than subvert Ashley's point, right? In the sense that, like, this is their life. This is the thing they chose. That's part of the package. But at the same time, I wonder, and I don't think this is part of what the Picard writers are thinking about at all. I don't think they've read those comic book sections or whatever. But if we can sort of cast it as the difference in culture between now and the 24th century concerning intimate relations, reproduction, like bonded mating / marriage, and child rearing. Is Picard in that sense claiming too much? Is he being like an old-fashioned French dude relative to Beverly in that moment? And this is just a thought experiment, because I think in general, at least in terms of current value, I think Ashley makes a very powerful argument there. Other than, I think, the fundamental nod to the bodily autonomy that Beverly has to have over herself, Ashley makes really powerful arguments, right? Because he's part of this whole scenario. But I wonder if we couldn't also see it as part of like the really powerful cultural differences between us and that 24th century, or 25th, I guess, at that point.
I think one of the big things for me that bothers me about it, though, is like, and Adam just quoted Generations, and I'm going to talk about Generations for a minute. He has that conversation with Troy about when Robert and Renee die in the fire. And he has that conversation with Troy about his regrets of never having a family and never having kids.
There shall be no more Picards.
See if he was with Beverly for that many years and they were already that close before they got into a relationship, that he wouldn't have had that conversation with Beverly, that he wouldn't talk about his brother and his nephew's death and how much that affected him, and that regret of not having children. And then she gets pregnant and she just makes that decision to not tell him when he was already grieving the fact that there were going to be no more Picards, and that he sort of let that go when he knew his nephew was going to carry everything on, but then his nephew died before he could, and it just seems cold to me. Like, it's just not the Beverly. That's
a tremendous response to, like, particularly Adam's point about the weight of that name. Oh wow. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I had not had that at all in my
I'll say this, though. When you think about the other family relationships we see in Star Trek, like between Riker and his father, Geordi and his mother, or I can't remember his sister.
Worf and Alexander. Data and Lore.
Another hidden child trope, or maybe the original in this time.
But there isn't
Kirk and David Marcus.
Oh, of course, yes.
But there's a real detachment between the families at Far or wherever it is versus the family that's created on the ships themselves, because that seems like you're right, Ashley. In Generations, that was the first time you saw any glimpse into and family itself, that episode Family. But other than that, like you never really saw what was going on back at home, and it was almost secondary and not as important, and that's where I sort of feel like yes, you have all this family and stuff like that, but is it really as important as the here and now and the mission? And I don't think it ever was, but I'm getting away from the argument here, but regardless.
I think it depended on the family, because I would say that Sisko would always choose Jake over the mission. He
would. Okay, I'm glad you said that, Ashley, because that's kind of leads to the point I wanted to make there too. the ultimate gray area about this is until one particular point, which I'll get to in 1 second, Picard agrees with Beverly. She said, I would have presented you with two options, this baby and your life in the stars, and you would have chosen your life in the stars. He doesn't disagree with her on that. What he says is, no, but you didn't give me the choice. But he doesn't ever disagree with her because it's Jean-Luc Picard. He would have chosen the stars. And she even makes the point is if you didn't, the stars would have chosen you, as they're doing right now. He's like in that season. Like he's just like, this is your Jean-Luc Picard. So he's like, he never disagreed with any of that. And you can't really, because she's not wrong and he's not wrong. But he's right in the sense that she didn't give him the choice. But she's just like, I couldn't deal with the heartbreak of what your choice would have been.
But the difference between Cisco and is that Jake was
Cisco's a better parent. Cisco's a better parent.
But he also had the kid with him.
Well,
Yeah.
Cisco's a better parent for his first kid, not so much his second kid. He abandons that kid before it's even born.
They told him he might be able to come back yesterday.
I know.
That's true. And we, yeah. But you the I think I've lost my point. Never mind.
It'll come back.
It was going to be a good one too. I was, whatever.
Well, Feed Me Seymour puts it quite succinctly. Tried to tell you I was pregnant, but you was Locutors at the time, and you're hanging with the Borg.
Yep.
That's great.
Ties a nice bow on that, doesn't it?
Oh no, this is what I was thinking
Okay.
about. I wonder if part of what they were trying to put together there in the third season of Picard is like some notion that this is like continuing with sort of the tragic arc of Picard's life, right? Because tragedy classically is like one good encounters another good, and one of these goods loses, right? So inevitably the good loses. And it's not because one is worse than the other, it's just one loses. And I don't feel like it invalidates what Ashley's saying. I wonder if that's what they were reaching for, but didn't hold on to all of these pieces adequately to actually stick the landing.
I think they could have come up with a story like this that could have continued on with this tragic Picard thing without destroying Beverly's character. If they had done a trip into Paul situation, and Beverly didn't find out until he was an adult that they had a child that was.
That should make a lovely reason why they're out in the middle of nowhere on a spaceship.
Had created without their knowledge or consent.
You know what else? I don't think Picard would have been a good father. Personally, I don't think. I mean, this is another topic for another day. I don't think he would have been a good father.
He's no Cisco.
Probably not. But
I think he would have been better than Worf.
Dad, can you make me some supper? Make you some supper? How do I make you some supper?
That is totally amateur night high jump bar setting right there. The bar is set at 4.
Yeah, go look after my kids. Oh, let's get them to school. Like, oh my God. Mom and Dad, I need you.
Oh, your mom's down on the floor. Look on this. Oh my gosh, what a guy.
Yeah. Well, Norman mentions it here. Crusher just did like a prolonged what Kalar did to Worf.
Yeah.
But nobody seems to be as harsh on Kalar.
Oh, Kalar
People are like Worf would have been a shitty dad, so she did the right thing. Picard would have been a shitty dad, so she did the right thing.
Well, I mean, Kalar was a little bit more of a one-night stand situation. They knew each other before, but they had a Picard and Beverly.
But they were Klingon blood bonded, like for marriage, right?
Yeah, but
to him, not to her so much.
In some ways, we can boil down both questions to the taking away of a choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that seems to be the fundamental kind of ethical problem we're wrestling with here. Is it your right to foreclose that choice in the light of your own anticipations about what could go wrong?
Not only are you not giving this person you supposedly care about the benefit of the doubt, but you're not giving them the benefit of the doubt.
And you're cutting off all of your friends for 20 years. Just going completely no contact.
That's the part that bothers me more than even the son part. I'm just like, so she doesn't talk to Deanna no more. She doesn't talk to Will anymore.
She just lost her mind 20 years ago and just like, whoop,
and they were all just like, yeah, I don't know. She just stopped talking to us.
Doesn't talk to Geordi anymore. Like, who ignores Geordi?
And
so sweet.
She's upset about her adult son going off with the Travelers, but she's okay with taking her other adult son to the fringes of the Federation to smuggle medical supplies. Like, if you're upset about one going off and doing something, then you can't be upset. You can't take your other one to do something even more dangerous.
Absolutely. Yes.
I agree with Feed Me Seymour as well.
Yeah,
Geordi's dead of the year. He gave up his ambitious career to just take care of his family.
His own family. When I was referring to his parents and things like that, it was a different kind of relationship, really.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to have wanted differently when his daughters were born. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Double girl dad. Me and Geordi have a lot in common. All right. Well, I think we were happy with where we landed on that one. It's the removal of choice that's like
with Ashley at some point, but it's a different.
Well, keep going.
There's so many angles.
Go for it.
We're moving on. We got one more.
It's the removal of choice, I think, is the stickler for all of us, right? Whether we think Picard was gonna be a good dad, or would have even accepted the kid, and
no, you know what?
That's not the point.
Actually, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to come back to my point about. So, if let's just play this out. So she had told Picard about being a dad, and he's a distant dad, but he's still Picard. So there's this expectation on young Jack to live up to the name and go to Starfleet Academy and blah blah blah. So this poor kid has got no dad at home and a name he's got to live up to. I think he would have had a miserable life either way.
Definitely would have had no dad at home regardless.
But
I think we can agree on that.
Why do we assume that
until he retires,
had all these expectations on him?
Oh,
yeah, I'm not so much fall into that either.
Why does having a very a mother who was in Starfleet who had a very good career in Starfleet. She was head of Starfleet Medical for a time. Why is that not a big expectation on him? Why does it only fall on Picard? Like she was on a flagship. She did all the same stuff. She did all the same stuff alongside.
Don't disagree with it, but she is taking the responsibilities with him. At least there's that.
Yeah, but she didn't allow Picard to take any responsibility. That's my big problem. Is he may have been a distant dad, but it came down to, and then if she had even talked to him and said, "This is my fear for Jack," and he was like, "I absolutely agree," then they could have just pulled a Kirk, and he could have just not. They could have just not said it was Picard's kid, and nobody would have known, and it would have been the exact same thing. But Picard would have secretly known. Yeah. I don't like that she went 20 years without telling him that he had a child. And I think it's too out of character for her. I don't think that is at all a choice she would have made on TNG. I think it's just too out of left field for Beverly's character.
Perhaps. But did she really even have a character on TNG?
I mean, if you read between the lines, she always was about doing the right thing and being moral, and this wasn't doing the right thing or being moral.
So she was just basically a cardboard cutout Starfleet officer. That was her character on TNG.
I don't think so, because if you particularly the episode where she spends time with the resistance movement that of the problematic sort of teletransporters.
I like that episode.
You see someone who is not just a committed Starfleet officer, committed to Starfleet values, but also has a kind of fierce sense of like medical right and wrong, ethical right and wrong, and is not afraid to sort of stand up for those things,
And
even
personal
in the
right
face
and
of
wrong.
potential danger. Right, like she's in a situation of considerable risk during the whole episode. I think, yeah, she's. It's sometimes trickier to see it in those sort of medical situations or some of the situations she's in, but I would absolutely agree with Ashley's characterization. If there are notes we can pull from that, is that she's highly ethical, highly competent. She's a passionate person, but does not let that rule her. You know,
And she's fierce with her friendships.
absolutely.
And you see that even in the movies too, and the fact that she would just abandon all of her friends, that
that
she's
part I don't like at all.
fiercely protected through the episodes and the movies. It just kind of put it, like, I was so excited to see she was coming back. I was like, she's gonna get something good, and then they gave us that, and I was just utterly disappointed.
Well, the reason didn't seem sufficient.
It didn't. I also don't like I understand why they wrote
No.
in that she never gets to see Wesley because he's off with the Travelers, but writing in that he never visits is silly to me, because he could literally just, it's like Cisco. He could literally just
drop in
by
anytime
and visit. Like,
well, Cisco doesn't have that kind of luxury, but Wesley certainly does. I think Cisco is somewhat imprisoned by the prophets. I think he can leave if they let him leave. Whereas Wesley
I
can
feel
just
like
do what he
it was
wants.
once he completed whatever he was doing
Whatever
in there,
they
he
wanted.
could leave and choose to go back to whenever he wanted to go back to. It
Perhaps.
seemed like.
The only thing I will say about Beverly that we do see in TNG is she will throw a lot of the qualities you guys mentioned aside to protect her
love?
to
Oh,
protect
yeah.
her family. Like when she
Yeah.
was, if she gets to that point in the Fall into the Flowers episode where she's just like, look, I'm done talking. I will not let them kill my son, Jean-Luc. I will go down there with a phaser. She doesn't say this, but this is her head. She's like, I'll beam them all into space. Don't give a shit about any of you. That's what I'm going to do. And she was sort of in that Beverly mode with this whole Jack shit.
And don't forget Sub Rosa.
She's
Well, her
fiercely
son's
protective of
already
her
gone,
candles.
Well, that's why I included the word passionate about her in her values.
Sensible.
Well, you can also see that in her there's that great conversation in when they're doing their like exercise and sort of yoga stuff in the episode with all the negotiations, when she's like, when Deanna is hooking up with the half Beta Z guy and they're just like spilling the tea, man. She definitely, I think it's part of that fierceness with friendships, but like she is a very she likes romance, I think is the point I was going to make. She loves
those Howard women.
I don't remember there being dialogue in that scene.
Oh, there was dialogue.
I just don't know how to spell it.
I must have been too busy looking at other things.
All right, moving on. Let's launch another probe. Oh my, that's a little more. We like to have fun here.
We like to have fun.
All right, let's fire a probe. Data should have tried
to build another Soong-type android after Lol.
Totally agree with you.
Romulan Jin, anyone?
Ooh, lovely. Beautiful.
Kanar.
Oh, Kanar. Well, I suppose this is me, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, for me, this is just one of the most beautiful episodes of TNG.
I cry every time.
I never get through this episode without having tears in my eyes at the end. The way
as soon as that Admiral comes out.
Exactly. He describes Data's hands moving fast.
What an actor that guy
is. Them. It just, like, the sense of grief and loss that sort of permeates the, like, latter third of that episode, but is sort of foreshadowed so skillfully in the front of it, is it's just absolutely tremendous. But I understand what they're saying in it, but it still feels to me like Data would have tried again.
I think you. So first of all, can I just talk about that episode?
Yeah,
Like when that
definitely.
happens, when Lal dies, and the rest of the crew and the actors did a fantastic job being that friend when somebody loses somebody, But
Yeah.
and then Brent Spiner was it was just it was interesting because you saw and you felt what everybody else was feeling for him, but he didn't. Like, it was just a great episode.
Such a great.
Oh, his inability to reflect it was so palpable. Like it's just, oh wow.
And then,
I
and
thought
then you mentioned the
yeah.
admiral. I mean, that admiral, everybody
Yeah.
eats at the beginning of that episode again, another admiral. But then, at the end, he talks about having children, and then he sees this
Data as another father. He
Yeah,
just sees him
yeah,
as
yeah.
another father,
You
losing
could
his
see
child.
his hands. They were working. It was just amazing to see this.
Oh.
Great.
I'm getting choked up, you guys, just talking about this episode.
I mean, that's the thing, because
Yeah.
it fundamentally has the themes of child loss or miscarriage or early child death or, all of those things, right? That wonderful scene in The Lord of the Rings where Theoden says, no parent should live to see this, is, oh, now it's happening to me. Jeepers.
Yeah.
Onion Ninjas. But that is a peculiar kind of pain that is really beautifully evoked in the episode. But yeah, somewhere. I mean,
but your point
yeah,
is would he continue on? And because of his detachment or lack of emotions at this point, seriously, in Data's development, he would have absolutely gone on. Like, I just learned something. Now I want to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, because even despite all the pain, we do too, right?
Yes.
We keep forming new connections. We try again when it goes, when we lose.
I could make a point for this on both sides. One,
all right.
I'm not 100% convinced that he wasn't trying again. Data for all intents and purposes could have lasted hundreds and hundreds of more years. So just because he didn't do it immediately after, he may have been doing in the infancy of doing more research or stuff like that, or gone, I'm going to continue to work on this problem and not bring another one in that's going to go through the same problems, try and figure out what went wrong with this one and eventually get to it. But then he died young, right? But on the other hand, or that could have been his reasoning, or he may not have done it right away because I don't think Starfleet was ready for another one. I think if he had figured this out and Starfleet had gotten a hold of the technology to build these, they would have built a lot of these, and it would have become the workhorses of Starfleet, and I think they would have
Picard season 1.
Absolutely.
Season 1.
Yes.
It has its good points, Picard season 1.
Yeah. So whether he saw the ethical implications, because again, he's already gone through Measure of a Man, and then now he's gone through where he creates another android, his daughter, and the Federation comes in, Starfleet comes in and wants to immediately take that away from him. And
Norman's asked, but would the Admiral not try to intervene again if he just tried to build another one?
Yes, of course you would.
Yeah,
and also we have lore running around.
That's true. Nothing
so,
was
I wonder if maybe he was holding off in the hopes that Starfleet would advance to the point where any more androids he created would have the same freedoms that he enjoys. But then again, died young. I don't think he saw his death coming so fast and didn't think it was a rush to make more.
That's a really excellent point, because he has an indefinite lifespan. You're right.
Right.
So
he would want to get that research right,
such a big consideration.
Because he doesn't want to see the lull happen again. That was too much.
Yeah.
Not just for the pain.
No, I mean, you're right. Like that
as well.
And then when
it has a whole other different ethical import, right?
When he gets his
if you
emotion
don't have
chip,
that,
does he then feel the grief? And
I would
turn
hope so.
that, and then not, a parent has to grieve for a certain amount of time before they have another child, and now he's feeling that grief. I feel like when he got his emotion chip, he's going to be dealing with the grief of both Tasha Yar and Lal.
Oh, a whole lifetime, Ashley.
Oh, can you imagine that the first time it comes on? Oh, bam!
Yeah,
That's the
And I
big
think-
bang in your
yeah.
mind, right?
Well, he was just sitting there crying, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And he's just like, he's
Everything's wrong.
Everything. Yeah.
but I feel like I'm on the side of no on building another one, because I think Starfleet would have. I don't think Starfleet was mature enough to handle more androids.
Mm.
Not with all the Badmirals running around at that time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Or have a lot of
Every
it.
The thing-
I think Vance would have been okay with a
Oh, Vance would have been great.
Soong-type android. I think he would have. I don't think he would have allowed any of that. Vance is good.
What I think maybe was motivating Data somewhat. It's kind of like what Ashley says too. Why he would want to try again is because in the early seasons, like Data will often mention how he's like superior to humans in certain ways and all these things, but he never feels as worthwhile as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like he thinks if somebody has to die, it should be him. Like he's like, you guys shouldn't question this. He's like, this is just the way it is, and he's just like, no. But like as he gains friendships and people tell him otherwise for seasons and seasons, he eventually feels worthwhile himself, and that's when he says to Picard, like in that episode, he's just like, I feel like I am something now, we're like kind of worthwhile that should pass that on and continue on myself, because he finally feels he's worth kind of continuing on, whereas like season 1 Data wouldn't probably want to recreate him, like procreate. Like he wouldn't feel like it made sense to do so. I don't think. But so yeah, I think he has this deep motivation now where he feels like he's awesome. He knows he's awesome and would be an awesome dad.
But
He'd be a way better dad than Picard. Data.
Here is food supplement number 87.
You are a pretty child. You are a good child.
You are a good child.
get a sandbox.
Picard's just like, I'll feed it.
Here, Chateau 87 right there.
Jean-Luc, you mean to tell me you haven't fed this boy anything but coffee and croissant for 6 days? It's what I eat, Beverly.
He looked at an orange yesterday, woman.
Yes, his hair's falling out, Jean-Luc. It happens to all Picard men.
Back as scurvy.
Teeth are loose and no hair.
You
Right.
can't even get that in the 24th century.
Eat an orange, Jean-Luc.
You grow fields of grapes, damn it, man.
Eat one of them.
For drinking, not for eating.
That's true. They're probably terrible grapes for eating.
Oh, I don't know. Wine grapes are pretty delicious.
Oh,
I may have not fed him, but boy, he read philosophy and. Oh.
He's gone on so many archaeological digs.
that's right. He took a whole.
I think we kind of agree that Data deserves to have a lull, and he probably would have tried again.
Yeah.
But it's just this episode, man. Like I felt like I finally got the upper hand on this episode, and then I had a daughter, and I watched it again, and I cried, and like, my God, like if the Admiral comes out, you cry about that, and then you go back in the room, and she's just like, "Thank you for my life," and you're like, and she's just like, "I love you, Father," and he's just like, "Thank you, lol," like. I can't feel that, and she's like, "I will feel it for the both of us." It's so.
You know that scene where she's like,
Yeah.
"I feel it," and she's like hitting herself in the sternum.
I feel it. Like,
Yeah.
that part
Yeah.
gets you choked up too.
Wow,
Like
yeah.
that's intense. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
what kids are like. Like they just start screaming because they're just feeling an emotion they can't like articulate or whatever. Like,
It's like too
Lol
big
was
to
played a
contain,
good
you know?
child. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although,
actress.
okay, I think one of the other questions that is important to bring up about this episode is, the bit where Lol's choosing what Lol's body is going to be.
I was just thinking about
Which is
that. Okay.
Who else got serious Astar the robot vibes off of that?
Yes.
Yes.
I am Astar, a robot. I can put my arm back on, but you cannot, so play safe.
That
It was
scared
like,
me when I was
oh,
a kid.
love, Dana made Astar the robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, my childhood mind could not
You
comprehend
can't,
that very
so
well.
play safe.
Oh yeah, folks not from Canada may not know this. There's a War Amps of Canada ad where this weird ass robot on a planet like jumps through this big tube like
There's saws
thing
everywhere
full
and
of
shit.
like saws and blades and tubes, and he eventually contacts one of them and then sticks his arm back on and tells you to play safe because he can put his arm back on, but you can't.
The planet Danger. He's on
The planet.
that's how
I am
they roll
Astar
on
the robot
Planet
from the
Danger.
planet Danger.
Yeah. That's just how they
So the
roll.
I
We're
mean,
on
all
Planet
obviously
Danger.
it stuck with us.
How many saws do you
Yeah.
have in your entranceway? 8? How many are you?
And they're going all the time. I had to dodge
Yeah,
them.
they-
I've
Of course.
never jumped down tubes full of saws. That advertisement worked.
Did you?
We're
Yeah.
And then they
about
remade
the
it.
man.
I
Like,
have
that
both
one was
my
all-
arms. Yeah.
I
That
haven't
one was
had
all
to reattach
practical.
anything.
Yeah.
But
So now we've gone fairly far afield from Star Trek, but I think we've
We
gotten
have.
to the at least a sort of bittersweet end to this question.
We should destroy the probe.
no, Worf. That's why
I
he's
suppose
not
the only
invited.
thing we can do with a warp is tell him no.
Yeah. No, Mr. Worf.
No,
But Captain, I really want to destroy the probe. It's our probe, Mr. Worf.
micro
Captain.
brain.
Someone could
Uh.
capture it.
Well, why don't we get out of here then?
All right.
I
There we
hope
go.
you all enjoyed that as much as we did. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and are we on TikTok?
We
Are
are
we?
on TikTok.
Oh,
Wow, we're
okay.
doing the
And
TikToks.
TikTok.
We are.
And you can contact us, me and Dave anyway, at locutorsoftrek@gmail.com.
TikTok.
And for, the science division, you can get the whole science division there as well. And you can find our audio-only version wherever you get your podcasts for the most part, I would think. And, ufpodcast.com. Check that out. That's where all our friendly podcasts are. Any final thoughts, anyone?
This is a good time again. I love these episodes. These
Indeed.
are fantastic.
Yeah.
Me too.
This was fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed this. I like talking like this.
Yeah, please come back again, Ashley. That would be
Yeah,
great.
Absolutely. I would love
We'll make
to.
this the regular
Yes.
panel. How about that?
Sure.
Oh, that'd be
Alright.
great. Yeah, let's do
I
it.
liked it. I think this 4-person panel worked well for the probes.
Indeed.
All
Well-
right. Well, I guess that only leaves one thing to say, isn't it?
End transmission.